at ISKCON Kolkata. She has served at Bhaktivedanta Research Center. So she has the brain of a researcher and a scholar, and a heart of a devotee and a gopi. So I warmly welcome Kulavati Krishnapriya. And please start with Mangalacharana. And if anybody has any questions along the line, please write it in the chat box. And if you have any, if you cannot hear or anything, unmute yourself and share if you're having any obstruction to hearing. And enjoy the class. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees. My obeisances to all of you. I'm very grateful to Mataji for giving me this opportunity to serve. So I start with the Mangalacharan. Om Ajnana-Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guruho Shri Gita Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parajana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padana Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamshcha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschat Deshatarine Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Hare Shivasadi Gaura Bhakti Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Shri Mangalacharan ki jai. So today we are going to go to that time when Krishna actually lifted the Govardhan hill. So we are actually going to close our eyes and meditate a little bit on the pastime, which we are going to think that Krishna is there standing in front of us with Nanda Maharaj is there all around the residents of Vrindavan. They are also there. And they are preparing for a fire yagya, a fire sacrifice. They are just about to start the fire yagya when Krishna, who is 7 years old now, he comes and he starts speaking. So Krishna comes and Krishna says that he sees what is happening, and looking at the situation, looking at everything, he says to Nand Maharaj, "My dear father, what is this arrangement going on for a great sacrifice? What is the result of such a sacrifice, and for whom is it meant? How is it performed? Will you kindly let me know? I am very eager to know this procedure. So please explain to me the purpose of this sacrifice." So Krishna says this. He is very eager to know what is happening. Here we have to say that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but he is Leela Purushottam. He loves to play, and he performs leelas for the pleasure of the devotees, and all his actions they have an intention behind it. So in this particular leela, we will see that how Krishna actually tells Nand Maharaj and all the residents of Vrindavan to stop worshipping a demigod. There are two reasons why he says this. First is, demigods are worshipped for a temporary thing. We should not worship the demigods. We should worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because he knows what is best for us, unlike the demigods, who just gives us what we want, irrespective of the fact whether it's really good for us or not. But Krishna, he knows what is really good for us, and he gives it for the benefit of our well-being, spiritually, mentally, in all ways. So we should worship Krishna because he is the supreme personality of Godhead. The second reason is why we should not worship the demigods is because ultimately the demigods give whatever we get by after taking permission from the supreme personality of Godhead, that is Krishna. So unless and until Krishna sanctions those desires, we cannot get what we want from the demigods. So if everything, if you can water the roots of the plant, then what is the need of watering the leaves? So that is the main message. And we will see how, as we go through the Leela, we will see that how ultimately this led to, I mean, Indra got bewildered and he got angry and he actually became very proud. So the anartha with which we are going to deal with in this particular Leela is a person becoming proud, and how pride, it's always said pride price always leads to a person's fall down. So we will look into that, and then we will also see how we can overcome this particular anartha, this particular uh, weakness which we all have. And then finally, we are going to glorify Giriraj. So after Krishna asked this question to Nand Maharaj, then Nand Maharaj actually, first he was silent. He was thinking that why Krishna is asking this question. And then he replied to him that we are performing this yajna, we are performing this sacrifice for the satisfaction of Indra. Indra is the one who gives us rains, and because of the rains we get grains, and then when we get grains we are able to tend our cows, we are able to perform our duties. Here it should be mentioned here that Krishna and Nand Maharaj, they all are from the Vaishya community. According to the Varnashram system, there is Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Shudras. So the Vaishyas are the ones who are in charge of the agricultural department. The Brahmanas actually, they handle it's responsible for imparting Vedic knowledge. The Kshatriyas were responsible for protecting the people. The Vaishyas were responsible for generating grains, and they were actually the mercantile community, the merchants. So if we get rains, only then we will get grains and everything. And it was only because of the rains that the Vaishya community was thriving and was, flourishing. And that is why, as a matter of fact, they were doing this yagya so that Indra is satisfied, and Indra gives them the rain and so forth and on, like I said. So after this, so on hearing this inquiry from Krishna, Maharaj Nand replied, "My dear boy, this ceremonial performance is more or less traditional. Because rainfall is due to the mercy of King Indra and the clouds are his representatives, and because water is so important for our living, we must show some gratitude to the controller of this rainfall, Maharaj Indra. We are arranging, therefore, to pacify King Indra because he has very kindly sent us clouds to pour down a sufficient quantity of rain for successful agricultural activities. Water is very important. Without rainfall, we cannot farm or produce grain, and without grain, we cannot live. Therefore, rain is necessary for successful religious ceremonies, economic development, and ultimately liberation. So we should not give up this traditional ceremonial function. If one gives it up, being influenced by lust, greed, or fear, then it does not look very good for him." So this is what Nand Maharaj said. So Nand Maharaj was telling little Krishna that we are doing this as we have been doing this since it's a tradition. And Krishna, after hearing this, what he says, it's actually after hearing this, Krishna, he says in the presence of his father, and there were all the elderly cowherd people or cowherd men of Vrindavan also present over there. So Krishna suggested that they forego the sacrifice. He suggested that please do not do this sacrifice. So Krishna actually was telling them not to do the sacrifice. He suggested that they forego the sacrifice, and his reasons for discouraging the sacrifice performed to please Indra were twofold. Like I mentioned in the at first only, that the reasons for not worshipping the demigods is ultimately everything. Ultimately, if we water the roots, then we don't need to water the leaves. So Krishna is the ultimate benefactor. So he is the like we see Bhoktaram Yagyatapasam Sarvalokam Maheshwaram. So if it is only Krishna who is going to give us everything, and if it is only him with who's going to whom all our desires will be fulfilled, then why we should separately worship the demigods? So Krishna actually, that is why he asked them not to perform this sacrifice. Krishna said, "My dear father, there is no need to worship the demigod Indra. Everyone has to achieve the result of his own work. We can actually see that one becomes busy according to the natural tendency of his work. And according to that natural tendency, all living entities, whether human beings or demigods, achieve their respective results. All living entities achieve higher or lower bodies and create enemies, friends, or neutral parties only because of the different kinds of work. One should be careful to discharge duties according to his natural instinct and not divert attention to the worship of various demigods. The demigods will be satisfied by proper execution of all duties, so there is no need to worship them. Let us rather perform our prescribed duties very nicely. Actually, one cannot be happy without executing his proper prescribed duty. So here, Krishna says that there is no need to worship the demigods. And he actually, further he goes on to explain to his father. He says, this cosmic manifestation is going on under the influence of the three modes of material nature: goodness, passion, and ignorance. These three modes are the causes of creation, maintenance, and destruction. The cloud is caused by the action of the mode of passion. Therefore, it is the mode of passion which causes the rainfall. And after the rainfall, the living entities derive the result success, success in agricultural work. So, what then has Indra to do with this affair? Even if you do not please Indra, what can he do? You do not derive any special benefit from Indra. Even if he is there, he pours water on the ocean also, where there is no need of water. So he is pouring water on the ocean or on the land. It doesn't depend on our worshipping him. As far as we are concerned, we do not need to go to another city or village or foreign country. There are palatial buildings in the cities, but we are satisfied living in the forest of Vrindavan. Our specific relationship is with Govardhan Hill and Vrindavan forest, and nothing more. I therefore request you, my dear father, to begin a sacrifice which will satisfy the local Brahmanas and Govardhan Hill, and let us have nothing to do with Indra. So Krishna suggests not to worship, what not to do, he says, and then he says what to do. He says we should worship Giriraj, Govardhan, and he actually says that then let us have nothing to do with Indra. After hearing this, what did Nand Maharaj say? Nand Maharaj replied, my dear boy, since you are asking, I shall arrange for a separate sacrifice for the local Brahmanas and Govardhan Hill. But for the present, let me execute this sacrifice known as Indra Yagya. But again, Krishna was very insistent. He says that, my dear father, don't delay. The sacrifice you propose for Govardhan and the local Brahmanas will take much more time. Better take the arrangement and paraphernalia you have already made for the Indra Yagya and immediately engage them to satisfy Govardhan Hill and the local Brahmanas. So Krishna was saying, if you will prepare separately for the Govardhan sacrifice, then it will take so much time. That is why don't delay. So he is very insistent. He doesn't want Nand Maharaj to worship Indra in any circumstance. And then Maharaj Nand, he finally relented. he couldn't he couldn't argue anymore with his sweet child. So he finally relented. And then the cowherd men then inquired from Krishna how he wanted the yajna performed, and then Krishna starts giving the directions. He says, prepare very nice food of all descriptions from the grain and ghee collected from the yajna. Prepare rice, dal, then halwa, pakoda, puri, and all kinds of milk preparations such as sweet rice, rabri, sweet balls, sandesha, rasagulla, laddu, and invite the learned brahmanas who can chant the Vedic hymns and offer oblations to the fire. The brahmanas should be given all kinds of grain in charity, then decorate all the cows and feed them well. After performing this, give money in charity to the brahmanas. As far as the lower animals are concerned, such as dogs and lower grades of people, such as the chandalas or the fifth class of men, who are considered untouchable, they also may be given sumptuous prasadam. After nice grasses have been given to the cows, the sacrifice known as Govardhan Puja may immediately begin. Sacrifice will very much satisfy me. So this is a very important line. This sacrifice will very much satisfy me. So in this statement, Krishna practically described the whole economy of the Vaishya community. We see that how Krishna gives instructions and how he helps the Vrindavan Vasis, all the cowherd men of Vrindavan, to actually do devotional service, to actually perform the yajna. And he ultimately tells them that this sacrifice will very much satisfy me. He says, and we also see, if we just go through all the things that is said by Krishna, we will see that how he is the supreme friend also, because he is caring for each and every one over here. He mentions about the brahmanas, he mentions about the he mentions about all the communities. He also mentions about the lower grades of people, or the fifth class of men. He is concerned about everyone, because he is the supreme personality of Godhead. He includes everyone in his directions to perform the Govardhan Puja. Even the cats and dogs, everybody. So another thing is here, we see that everybody should be given prasadam, the glories of prasadam. Like if anyone serves, if anyone eats or honors or serves prasadam, they also benefit a lot. And most important statement: this sacrifice will very much satisfy me. So Krishna is satisfied. So what happens when they start performing the sacrifice as instructed by Sri Krishna, and then Indra, he actually looks at what is happening and he becomes very angry. Indra becomes very angry and he starts, he is overcome from this anartha of pride. He thinks that all the Rajvasis, everybody should worship me. He forgets Krishna for a brief moment, and because of illusion, because he is overcome by pride. And then what happens? And then he starts. He out of anger, he starts kind of torturing everybody because he wants to take revenge. He orders the most furious cloud. He orders the cloud, the Samantha clouds to cause flood and to cause rains which lasted for 7 days in Vrindavan. And everybody, they were very much frightened, and they were so confused and so much scared and tormented by this anger of Indra that they immediately went and surrendered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. we see how the Brajvasis are so much surrendered, and how whenever anything happens to them, they go and surrender to the Lord. And they immediately went to help, and they went to Krishna, and then they asked him to help them. And then what Krishna did? Krishna, he lifted up the Govardhan hill, and he lifted up the Govardhan hill, and everybody came under the umbrella. A kind of an umbrella was formed because it was Krishna who was lifting, and then there was this huge shade above
No, she's
Krishna.
not having today.
Haribol? Hare Krishna.
Yes.
Somebody's, I think, mic is open. Okay. So then what happened after that? Okay. This is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, thus advised the cowherd men to. After that, what happened? He lifted the Govardhan hill, and then everybody came under the protection of the Govardhan hill, and ultimately coming under the protection of the Supreme Lord, their beloved Sri Krishna. So, what happened after that? Indra was very furious because Indra couldn't realize that who this little boy is, because he was bewildered, he was under illusion, and he couldn't understand that who this little boy is who is protecting the Vrindavan Vasis, who is telling them not to worship me. So he got very angry. And then his anger increased more and more and more, only to find that, I mean, he couldn't help. He ultimately he had to surrender, and he had to. He came to know, and then he realized that this is none other than the Supreme Lord. And after that, he folded his. I mean, he realized his mistakes, and he was very sorry and very. He was repenting for his mistake, and then he asked for forgiveness from the Lord, and then he actually went to the Lord with Surabhi cow, so that he forgives him, because Krishna is also called Govinda. Govinda means he loves. He is Gopal. He's Govinda. He loves cows. He is a cowherd boy, and Indra went with the Surabhi cow to him, and he did Abhishek of the Lord, and he tried to please him, and he tried to express his repentance, express his that he has realized his mistakes, and then Krishna actually forgave him. Krishna he forgave him because he saw that Indra had realized his mistake, and he saw that he was actually under he was overcome by pride. There is one more important thing over here, that why Indra, why Krishna also, I have heard in several lectures also, that the other reason why Krishna forgave Indra was because of Indra, he could spend more time with the Brajvasis for 7 continuous days. So he actually he could associate, just like we are eager to associate with the Lord, the Lord also wants to associate with devotees. And Krishna was very happy that due to this act of Indra, he could associate with his devotees. So he forgave. But he teaches us a lesson. He teaches us that pride goes before a fall. He teaches that we should never be proud. Why we should never be proud? Because Krishna, especially as devotees also, we should never ever consider ourselves to be the supreme. When somebody becomes proud, he actually says that I am the best. But actually Krishna is the best. He actually tries to take the place of the Lord. He tries to forget Lord. He tries to delete the Lord from his activities, from his life. which is not at all pleasing to the Lord. And we can see this from the prayers of Queen Kunti Maharani also, where Kunti Maharani actually says that one who has a lot of wealth, who has excellent physical strength, beauty, high education, high parentage, such a person is prone to become very, very proud. And that person cannot correctly chant the name of God. Pride is the number one enemy of the devotee, and Krishna does not tolerate pride. As soon as pride is in our hearts, Krishna has nothing to do with us. This we can see in Kunti Maharani's prayer, where she says, Janmeshwarya Shruta Shruti Edamana Madapuman Neivarhatya Vidatum Vai Tvama Kinchana Gocharam. So she says this, that pride is the worst, is a very big enemy of the devotee. And pride is very bad and is very detrimental to our devotional service. It is one of the anarthas, one of the blocks which actually prevents us from being humble. It's against the rules set up by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, where Mahaprabhu says, Tranadapi Sunichena, Tarorapi Saheshnana, Amanina Manadena Kirtanya Sadahari. He says we have to be humbler than the blade of grass or a tree. So when we become proud, we actually refute what Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu tells us to be humble, but our pride prevents us from being humble. And even Srila Prabhupada, there's a past time when Srila Prabhupada, there was a devotee who came to Srila Prabhupada and he tells Prabhupada that Prabhupada, I am the most fallen. Srila Prabhupada said, this is what Srila Prabhupada said. Prabhupada said, quote, this is another type of false pride. Some are thinking they are most advanced, that is pride. You are thinking you are the most fallen, that is another pride. The truth is that you are not the most anything. You are simply insignificant. That is your position eternally, insignificant. When we accept this principle within our heart, then our service gives the ultimate pleasure to the Lord. This is a very wonderful pastime of Srila Prabhupada, where he displays how we should not have a pride even of being the most fallen. Because Prabhupada mentions here, he mentions the truth, the truth is that you are not the most anything. And we cannot say I am anything and before that most. We cannot say that because it is Krishna only who is the most. Most is the superlative form of more. So we cannot actually consider ourselves superlative because superlative is resonating with supreme, superior. We are actually not in that position. That position is occupied by God and there is only one God. And so that position can be occupied by only one person, and that person is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. So when we become proud, what happens? We forget our true position, in which here Prabhupada says, this is your position eternally. You are simply insignificant. And we can always see that Prabhupada always used to write your most insignificant servant. Whenever he used to sign, he always used to write that. He always considered himself insignificant. He was never ever overcome by pride. And that is why Prabhupada was so dear to Krishna. So if we want to become very dear to Krishna, we should actually give up this very bad anartha of being proud. So Kekendra, he had too much wealth, he had too much education, he had too much power. He had everything too much. So he was so infatuated that he could not even recognize the Lord of his life standing right in front of him. So he was so bewildered, he was so much illusioned, he couldn't see that who is standing in front of him because he was so much infatuated. Here, the infatuation word is also very interesting. Infatuation is a kind of false notion. So when somebody is infatuated, it's a kind of a false notion of being in love, but actually it's not love. You are infatuated, means you are overcome by certain desires which are actually not very true. So when we become infatuated with pride, then what happens? We become too much obsessed with the statement that I am the best. I am the most in Prabhupada's words. I am the most. So this most has to be replaced with the word I am insignificant. I am an insignificant servant of the Lord. But Maya is very strong, and we are living in a world where there is constantly the downpour of the miseries of material existence. We are also in a storm where the lightning, the thunder, and the tumultuous rain of the temptations for sense enjoyment are consistently beating upon us. Just like Indra was giving so much of, he was giving storm, lightning, thunder, rain, all these things. So we are also in that turmoil, in that situation where our senses are always taking us into storm, lightning, thunder. We have to fight against this. We are struggling with this. So this material world is like a storm, and Krishna has exhibited through this Leela how we can take his refuge, how we can take his shelter, how we can take his protection. He is Giridhari. Giridhari means mountain, and Dhari means one who takes the lifter of the mountains. He is Giridhari. He is the protector of his devotees from the temptations of sinful life. He is the protector of his devotee from the miseries due to the temporary conditions of the world. But he only protects those who humbly fall at his feet, not those who are puffed up with pride and ignorance. And he helps those who takes shelter as the residents of Vrindavan. As the residents of Vrindavan, they immediately took Krishna's shelter. So, in the same way, we also have to take Krishna's shelter. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Sarva Dharman Parityajya, Mam Ekam Sharanam Vraja, Aham Tuam Sarva Papebhyo Moksha Isyami Mashucha. Krishna says, you abandon all other beliefs and you come to me. I will protect you. I will free you from all your sinful reactions. And the most important thing, he says, do not fear. You should not be scared to take his shelter. Even though the storm of this pride is very strong, even though we can forget, we can get illusioned, we can get infatuated by this strong desire that nobody is better than me. I am the most, I am the best, I am the most. So if we simply, if it's not a very, we just have to simply surrender, just like the residents of Vrindavan did. They did nothing. They just surrendered to the Lord. And Krishna reciprocates. To the degree we surrender, to that degree Krishna will help us to remove this anartha. If we surrender to him 100%, he will help us remove this anartha 100%. And then ultimately, what will happen? Ultimately, we will learn to become humble. We will learn to become. We will learn to follow in the footsteps of the Vrajvasis. And when we start following in the footsteps of the Vrajvasis, we become very dear to Krishna because the Vrajvasis are very dear to Krishna. So we see that the Giriraj Govardhan, he is very glorious. Krishna says that Giriraj is he himself, and he says that, and even in one of the very famous Ashtakams, which was composed by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, even he, in the 8th verse, he says, without taking shelter of the feet of the hill that is the best of Lord Hari's servants, and full of love for the divine king and queen, how is it possible to attain pure devotional service? May Govardhan Hill fulfill my desire. So, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur here says that Govardhan is Haridas Variye. He is Lord Hari's servants. He is very dear, very dear to Krishna. Haridas Variye. Variye means he is the most, he is the best. Variya means he is the best servant. Haridas, Das means servant, and Hari means Krishna himself. So he is Haridas Variye. And then we also see that how if we surrender to the Lord, then just like he lifted the mountain of Govardhan, so he can also lift the mountain of our sins, of our anarthas. But we have to be humble. And And then after this, I just want to conclude with this very nice verse which Kandilya Muni, he actually repeatedly chanted this mantra. And during this Purushottam month, this Adhik Mas, we should also chant this mantra at least 3 times in a day. It's Govardhanatharam Vande Gopalam Goparupinam Gokulotsavam Ishanam Govindam Gopika Priyam. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna, who lifted the Govardhan hill. He is the maintainer and protector of the cows. He assumed the form of a cowherd boy and performed various transcendental pastimes. He is the great joy and grand festival of Gokula. He is the supreme controller and master of everything and everyone. He gives pleasure to the cows and the senses. He is the beloved of the cowherd damsels of Vrindavan. The scriptures state that by chanting this mantra 33 times every day with devotion during the Purushottam month, one will attain the mercy of Sri Purushottama, Sri Krishna, and attain the fulfillment of all the spiritual desires. Bhagwan Shri Krishna ki jai. Giraj Govardhan ki jai. Thank you. Any questions or any comments we can share?
Thank you, Kulavati Krishnapriya. And if anybody has any questions, you can unmute yourself or you can write it in the chat box and Kulavati will address it. Or you can also comment if you don't have a question, if you have a comment. Okay, so Kulavati, maybe you would like to share some realization while you were preparing for this class. Would you like to add something else in your preparation?
Yes, when I was preparing for this class, I mean, it's a wonderful opportunity to immerse ourselves in the Leelas, because Prabhupada always said that every day we should read the Krishna book. This is taken from the Krishna book only. And I heard some of the lectures. Some were by His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj, some were by His Grace Amrendra Prabhu. And then I also went through Prabhupada's lectures and comments, and it was a very nice experience for me, because it made me it was the best utilization of time, as Prabhupada always says, best use of the bad body. So we are actually entrapped in this material body, and we are suffering, and we all are in the anartha nivritti stage, and we all want to overcome the stage, because after this stage there is nishtha. So nishtha is when nothing can when we become very determined, when nothing can change or stop us from our endeavors to reach Lord Krishna. So we are in this. It said that this stage, the anartha nivritti stage, it takes lifetimes. Maybe it can take lifetimes also to get out of this. And these leelas, these classes which are being given by the devotees, this will help all of us to remove anartha to a certain degree, because when we hear and when we the whole concept of like the leela and then the anartha related with the leela, and then ultimately the ways of removing this anartha, it's very enlightening and very nice. And when we glorify the Lord, half of the job is done over there only. Because when we glorify Krishna, we actually, Krishna helps us to overcome so many difficulties. So I had this wonderful realization while I was writing I was preparing and writing the script of what I will say. I just saw that how, I mean, Krishna gives us the inspiration, and we get like everything is very nicely, we get everything on and we arrange it like a puzzle. So we get the missing, like my script is like a puzzle. It's and I just had this thing, and I was taking something from there, taking something from here and there, everything, and I'm putting it together. So putting it together means the puzzle of my script was getting ready, and then when I got it all together, then it was done. So Krishna is so nicely, he actually helped me in getting all the missing pieces of the puzzle together, and so that I am able to present and please the Vaishnavis over here, because it's only through pleasing of the devotees that we can please the Lord, because Krishna says, even Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says in Guru Ashtakam, Yasya prasadat bhagavat prasado, yasya prasadat nagati putoke. So this class is an opportunity to please Hari Guru and Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis, and it's been during this Purushottam month. This is another bonus which we are getting, because whatever we do in this month, it's 1,000 times benefits we get. So it was very nice, and I hope I could narrate it nicely, because I tried to, and I hope I didn't say anything from my mind. I just quoted what Srila Prabhupada has said us, and for the pleasure of everyone present over here. So this preparation itself was and we actually went to I went to Vrindavan also. That is why in the beginning I tried to bring that picture, and I tried that we should close our eyes and meditate on the Leelas. There are two aspects which Prabhupada always says, Leela and Tattva. And even during initiation also we have this, uh, and many devotees, they discuss also on this, that what we should hear more, Tattva or Leela. But Prabhupada said this, that you should every day in the morning, like Bhagavatam, and then every day in the morning, thank you, Varsasali Mataji. So every day in the morning we should study Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, but every night we should read Krishna book. And Krishna book is all about Leelas. It has all the Leelas. So this is a very nice, I mean, platform or opportunity to express ourselves in front of the devotees, and to it's a good practice also, so that we are able to go and uh, preach, because this is ISKCON, I mean, we are in a preaching movement. Ours is a preaching mission. So we have to go out and preach. I heard in one of my very senior devotees, he actually said that we don't chant 64 rounds, we chant 16 rounds, because we let others chant the other 48 rounds. So ours is a preaching mission, and we have to learn to deliver what our acharyas has said in a presentable and in a presentable way, so that we are able to convince everyone and take all the souls back home, back to God along with us. And it's only if we are not prepared, if we are not confident, if we are not very sincere towards our spiritual master, towards Srila Prabhupada, then we will not get that inspiration, and then we won't be able uh, to help others also. So it's very important to actually help ourselves before we help others. And this full exercise of preparation was helping myself, and this class is also helping myself. So this is what I actually realized, and I look forward to get more opportunities and get more because this gives me a chance to serve the Vaishnavis through my words. We should serve through body, mind, and words. So all the three, the body, the mind, and the words were into action. I had to be like body is in action, and then I had to think a bit and prepare, and then obviously I'm speaking. So the devotees, the Vaishnavas are, they actually, even when they do take sannyas, they serve the Lord through body, mind, and words. And like the Mayavadi sannyasis, like we have this, the Vaishnavas sannyasis, they have three danda. They serve the Lord through body, mind, and words. The Mayavadis, they are ekadandi, I mean they want to become one with the Lord. But our mission, our goal is to get the service of the Lord eternally. So this is a service, and it's only through service that we are able to purify our senses. And this particular anartha, I took pride because this is one anartha which actually I would say I have been struggling, because many a times this happens when somebody praises me or something, and I get proud. So it was a very nice opportunity for me to remember that I don't have to be. And the best part of this whole thing was I loved that line of Prabhupada where he says, "You are not the most." Uh, you're not. I always used to say the words, "You're not the best," but like after this preparation, I'm going to replace that statement with Prabhupada's statement where he says, "You are not the most." So you're insignificant, not the most. Because it's only when we say that I'm not the most, then only we actually submit ourselves, and we don't get into that uh, entanglement of uh, I am the most, not I am the best. I am the most. This is another takeaway for me, that I will use this line, like I am the most from now onwards. So all glories to our Srila Prabhupada. He actually gave us so much. And with each class, with each association of devotees, my gratitude towards him increases more and more and more and more. So all glories to him, and all glories to the devotees present over here who could lend their ears to me and could patiently hear me, so that I am able to purify myself of this anartha called pride. And then this also inspired me to reiterate the fact that Krishna is everything. We have to respect the demigods because they are also Krishna's part and parcel, but we don't have to replace them with the worship of the Supreme Lord. The worship of the demigods is secondary to us, it's not a priority. So I learned that we have to prioritize and purify ourselves to ultimately reach our supreme abode, our original home. So we all are suffering from this homesickness because we are away from our home. So gradually, subsequently, through these purificatory process of hearing and shravanam and kirtanam, hearing and glorifying the Lord, we can come out of this. And uh, I just pray that we all can get to our destination, the goal, Krishna Prema. Thank you. Anyone can share their realization or anything they liked.
Hare Krishna, Kulavati Krishnapriya Mataji. That was a very nice lecture. Thank you so much. I love the examples you gave, especially the example of Srila Prabhupada. And you're right, sometimes we do forget and we start using these words, most fallen and so on. And very nice lecture. And on top of it, very nice realization you just shared. It just makes me realize that you're so connected with the Lord, and preaching in Krishna consciousness is a blessing for us. And I think you did a wonderful, and thank you so much for the wonderful realization, because you're so true. When you're preparing all these things, Krishna is helping us throughout, and he's so wonderful in intelligence that he's also cleaning or unearth us. Like you say, sometimes you get full of pride. And it's very true. When you're doing all these activities, it's a purification for us. So this was very wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Haribol. Thank you for sharing.
Jai. Good job, Kulavati Krishnapriya. Wonderful realizations, very practical tips on how you prepared. So this is an inspiration for all of us, how to prepare. For those of you watching offline later, you can get inspiration. And Kulavati, maybe you can be available to those who want some tips on how to prepare for classes. And for first class, you did excellent. And I'm so proud of you. Thank you so much. And Hari Bol, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Giriraj Maharaj ki jai, Kulavati Krishnapriya Devi Dasi ki jai.
Okay.
Hare Krishna. Okay, we can end the meeting here. Hari Bol.
Haribol. Vanchakalpataru Vaishya Kripa Sindhu Vaishnavi.